Hey, in this video, I'm gonna show you 5 things you need to do before you fly your drone, and I do these every time I fly. So let's go outside and I'll show you how I do it. All right, so this isn't my first tip, but I do recommend finding a wide open space like this. It's always nice to fly your drone with plenty of room. It's good to practice in a wide open space. If you're just starting, if you're more experienced, you go in a smaller space, but it's nice to have more space here. All right, so the first thing I do is go into my phone on an app called Aloft or Before You Fly. It's owned by the same company. I use the app Aloft, which used to be Kitty Hawk. All right, so you just press on that app. You gotta sign up if you haven't done so. So I've already signed up, so recognizes my face and I get into the app. Now, great thing about this app, you can see where you are and then you can just move it around and you can see the different airspaces. So I can check to see, all right, I can't fly here. This is like a no-fly zone, obviously an airport. You can double check all the different places and then you know whether you need permission from the FAA to fly in certain areas. So I just check the area where I'm at, just double check to see there's no airports, no fly zones, restricted areas, things like that. All right, the second thing you need to do before each flight is to go into your phone again, and this is another app. So obviously we want to fly legally and now we want to check the weather. Now normally I do this at home, but here I'm on site, so I'll show you how I do it. So I go click here and I go into this app called UAV Forecast. Now in UAV Forecast, it's a tremendous app because it's designed for drone pilots. So at the top it says good to fly and it'll be green, and all you have to do is type in your location. It automatically sees my location, so it's already there, but then it says good to fly. I can see the weather's partly cloudy. I can see when it's sunrise, when it's sunset. I can see the temperature and I can see the wind, how fast the wind is gusting. And then if I just click on the wind profile, I can see how I fly and what the wind is gonna be like. So for instance, if I wanted to fly 250 feet, I can see that the wind is 6 miles per hour, but it's gusting to 12 miles per hour. The wind gusts is what you really have to watch out for because that's what could cause problems for your drone. Now today is not a windy day, obviously, so it's not really a factor, but if you're close to the ocean or on a real windy day, this comes in handy. You also get to see the visibility, cloud cover, the direction of the wind. Now I'm flying the Mavic 3 Cine, so it's not really an issue. This usually never an issue, but when I'm near the ocean, I always take note of that. Okay, at this height, the wind is gusting to this many miles per hour. So it's a great thing to check before you fly. And then the other thing that I look at is the forecast. So I just press the forecast button and I can see at the different times what all the different things are gonna be like gusts, temperature, precipitation, cloud cover, visibility, etc., etc. Great app, recommend you download it and you'll know right away whether it's safe to fly and how high and where you can fly, what's it gonna be like at what time. All right, so the technology is getting better and better, but I still do a compass calibration before every flight. So I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Another tip, bring mosquito repellent because these mosquitoes are killing me right now. Back to tip number 3, turn on your drone and controller. Once you have that and you're in the DJI Fly app, you're gonna see a little number of satellites. You want that number to be at least up to number 9. It's usually gonna start a little lower. Right now it says like 10, 11, which is great. So first thing you do, click on the 3 dots in the upper right hand corner and you're gonna be under the safety tab and just scroll down till you see compass normal. And then what you do is you press that calibrate button. So you press the calibrate button and then you're gonna see it says start. So now we're gonna press the start button, and as soon as we press the start button, it's time to calibrate the compass. Now I make sure I'm away from my vehicle, make sure you're not near any metal, near a vehicle, near any signs, near a building where there's any type of metal or interference that might prevent you from doing a proper compass calibration. So away from my vehicle, I'm just gonna hold out my drone and just turn around and just do a circle. Hard to do a circle since I have this in my other hand. What I'm gonna do is just do an actual circle. So I go around like this. It tells me to turn the drone like this, okay, vertically. And then I just go like that and it says calibration successful and you're all set to fly now. And that's really important before you do it every time you fly. That way you don't get flyaways and you have a good signal strength, okay? So make sure you do that. All right guys, so the next thing we wanna do is start the drone's propellers. Always place the drone facing away from you because it's just easier to control that way if the drone is away from you. These don't have to be out, it doesn't matter. You just leave it as it is. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my my thumbs and press down and in at a 45-degree angle. So as soon as I do this, you might get a warning the first time. This is just to make sure the propellers are on correctly so that you don't take off and one of the propellers falls off and your drone crashes. So it's better to start the propellers first to see if one of the propellers is not on correctly, and then you'll know before taking off. So what I do, just hold 45-degree angle and the propellers are starting. So you could press the takeoff button on the actual screen, but doing it this way is a lot safer. This is the way I start my drone every time. And then you just press up to fly normally. Just hold your thumbs, your fingers like this, 45-degree angle, just down and in like that to start the drone. And then to stop it, you just press down on the left stick like this, and the drone will stop. That's how you start your drone safely. So my last tip is to use ND filters. I always carry a bunch of ND filters, everything from ND4 all the way up to ND 512 I have here, or even ND 1000 if I'm gonna do a really slow shutter or do a hyperlapse. ND filters come in real handy. Freewell also sent me these ND filters for the Mavic 3, which I'll put in the link below. And these have a polarizer on them, so they're an ND filter and a polarizer, 2-in-1. So the polarizer really makes the greens and the blues pop out, and the ND filter is kind of like sunglasses for your camera lens. In very simple terms, it allows you to properly expose the image without having choppy footage. You get cinematic smooth footage while following the shutter rule, which is the shutter speed is double your frame rate. So if your frame rate's 24 frames per second, your shutter speed should be about 1/48th of a second, or on cameras it's 1/50th of a second. If you shoot at 60 frames per second, you need 1/120th of a second, or 1/125th of a second. So the shutter speed is always double the frame rate, but a lot of times that's not possible because there's too much light out, even after you lower your ISO. So what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to get some ND filters, and that's why I always use these. Now, a trick for using ND filters, I just take off normally and see how the exposure is without them on. So I just take off a few feet, maybe 30-40 feet if I need to. I can see right now that it's overexposed, and the way you do that, just look in the lower right hand corner and you see the exposure. You could even hold your drone up in the air, so even as I hold the drone up, I can see it's already like a +1. Okay, so if I just put down the drone, then just put on an ND filter. So I think right now maybe like an ND4 or an ND8, because right now it's not too bright and there is a lot of cloud cover, so probably like an ND4, ND8 would be good. Now most of the time I shoot in D-Log or D-Cine-like mode, but I'm just shooting in normal mode as an example here, because a lot of people are shooting in normal mode. They don't want to do any color grading. So when you shoot in normal mode, you're going to want to get the exposure like spot on. Even in D-Cine-like or D-Log, you want to get it spot on. Normally I use the aperture about f4, but sometimes I go all the way up to 5.6, but I like to stick between 2.8 and 5.6. Usually about f4 is what I use. Now, one thing about using the ND filters is you want to turn off your drone when you put these on. Never put on an ND filter with your drone on. When you put on these ND filters, you got to be very careful. So one thing I like to do is just turn it upside down. So I like folding up the drone because it's a little easier to put the ND filters on. Hold this, the gimbal, so you don't damage the gimbal. Take off the normal filter, put on that ND filter right there. Just twist like that and we're good. Then we start the drone and see if it works. And I can already tell it's looking a lot better. So let me just take off. And I know it's a little too much. Probably an ND4 would be good, but the other thing I could do is also change my aperture. Everything looks great. Make sure I get my focus and then just start flying. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Also, if you want more training like this, I made a free DJI drone training. You just click the link below. I'm Brett Caramella, and remember, fly like a pro.